This episode, Coaching Confidential, the Contention of Coaching. Coaching has become one of the most polarizing topics in the beauty industry. Depending on who you ask, it's either transformational or transactional, empowering or predatory. In this episode, we sit down with the biggest names in coaching from different companies to unpack why coaching has become so contentious and what it actually looks like behind the scenes. We're not here to pick sides. We're here to explore the nuance, the different approaches, the myths, the motives, and where personal responsibility fits in. On this episode of Dirty Hair, David Bosher and Sid Charisse, co-founders of Destroy the Hairdresser, and Britt Siva, founder of Thriver Society.
I want to buy a place upstate New York. I have never said this out loud to the public. I want to buy a giant place upstate New York and really lean into that cult vibe, right? And I want to host in-person classes. I want to have an actual home base.
The DTH commune.
Yes. We can raise it. We can make our own food. I'll have sister wives. It'll just be...
Oh my God.
Yes. No, I'm teasing.
I was a little apprehensive, honestly, to have this topic because coaching has become so contentious. People have very strong opinions about who's the right coach, who's giving out the right information, who's doing good for my business, who's doing bad for my business. And when it comes to coaching, it's like the Wild West. There's just no regulation. You can get some certificate from some place and all of a sudden you're a coach. You have this methodology that you thought of and boom, you're a coach. So what's really going on and why is it, no wonder why it's so contentious. I mean, there's no standards of anything.
There's absolutely no standards. In fact, you don't actually have to have a certification to call yourself a coach. Anyone that decides that they are a coach can then be a coach. There are, of course, innumerable different certifications that one can receive. And then there's some nationally recognized, there's two main nationally recognized coaching boards that are actually quite difficult to become a part of and require, costly investment. Mm-hmm. But, anyone walking down the street could call themselves a coach. And I think that's causing a lot of confusion about what a coach actually is, what are they doing, and what's the benefit of it, because the results are so across the board.
Yeah. And there's coaching from product companies and business organizations that have business strategies. There's independent coaches. It's just all over the place. At the Left Brain Group, I partnered with Destroy the Hairdresser, and we worked together for 8 years. We stopped working together for the past 2 years, not because we left on bad terms or people had something to say. We just weren't working on anything together. And so I've really maintained a great relationship with David and Sid. And I'm really excited to get to speak to them on this topic because we haven't really heard their perspective. And I don't think people have been asking them some of the tougher questions that I hope to get some answers from today. And, I really appreciate Britt coming on to the podcast as well. I don't have the same relationship I had with her. What I want this podcast episode to explore is why is it so contentious? What is it, the process behind the different methodologies? What qualifies someone to be a coach? How do these people operate and navigate within the space? How do you balance responsibility? What is your responsibility as a coach and a company delivering information where people are paying thousands of dollars for your advice to implement into their business? And what's on the personal responsibility of the student? And it's a tight rope, and we're not here to pick sides, and we're not here to have a witch hunt, but I do want to get a better understanding and share with the public, what is it about coaching that rubs people a certain way? Is it the concept? Is it the marketing? Is it the application? What about coaching is just getting under people's skin right now? And I want to get to the bottom of it.
It's interesting, you mentioned companies, coaches as individuals, whatever. But when you have a company that's touting itself as being a company based on coaching, there's got to be some kind of protocols put into place. And I'm so curious to know what goes on behind the scenes in order for these protocols to be not only established, but then taught to the people that are then getting the certifications from these organizations, then going out and providing the service to people. I'm actually a coach myself, and I got certified by Gallup to be what's called a strengths finders coach. When I went to the training, I learned all of the content, but they really didn't focus much on the actual practice of coaching itself. And I had previously to that, I had coaching background. I was and still am from time to time, a facilitator for Fierce Conversations. Fierce Conversations has a whole class about what it is to be a coach. And according to Fierce Conversations, coaching is not about advice giving. It's about knowing how to listen and ask the right questions to help the coachee arrive to a deeper solution or understanding of what their concerns are. And instead of the coach saying, now here's what you got to do, the coach has to ask, what do you think is the best possible solution for this circumstance? And the coachee comes up with their own plan and are guided to it through the questions that are asked to them of the coach. Now, that, in my opinion, is where there may be disconnect between what's working and what's not working with coaching, is that I think a lot of people get these certifications, they go to Gallup and they've learned about all these 34 strengths and they know them inside and outside. And now they can give people advice on how to deal with these things that they're working through. The advice is where you get into trouble.
Because coaching has become so contentious and we hear these claims about how so-and-so coaching companies ruined my business. So-and-so company has given me this terrible advice. There's a lot of finger pointing going around and the coaching company saying, well, you didn't implement it the way I told you to implement it. And so this whole idea of the ownership on behalf of the coaching company versus personal responsibility. And so first we're going to get the take from David from Destroy the Hairdresser. Well, let's get into that because I think when it comes to coaching, it is so lawless. It's the Wild West. There's so many different ways you can go about finding methodology to help support hairdressers and salon owners with their business. So
thank God,
right? We love choice and love options. Now, when it comes to DTH methodology, how do you go about coming up with your programs? Is it your own personal experiences? Are they proven systems? Are they your philosophies? A mix of all three? None of the above? Where do you get the DTH methodology from? How was it born? How has it evolved?
So I think the first thing to cover is the difference between coaching and consulting. And I think that a lot of people sell coaching, but what they're offering is consulting. And so we don't offer consulting. Consulting is the people that you buy templates from, the people that do calls with you and they say, okay, here are your benchmarks, here are your goals, let's do another call once you hit these. This is not coaching. And that's fine. It's just coaching means that you are taking a white glove approach to the holistic part of someone, meaning I'm going to coach you on your business, but I also have an understanding that the changes you make in your business are going to affect your entire life. They're going to affect your relationship with your spouse. They're going to affect your relationship with your kids. You're going to have to take risks when you're in coaching that you may need your family on board for because a lot of our methods they require a lot of risk taking. And I think that people lump everyone they see online that offers advice and consulting as a coach. But words are important and definitions are important. And I would say that there are actually very few coaches in our industry and a lot of consultants.
Let's tune into my conversation with Britt Siva, who also shared a similar sentiment about the role of a coach.
I am so excited to connect with our next guest, Britt Siva. She is a business coach and the founder of Thrivers Society. Welcome, Britt.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
I think it's a beautiful thing when anybody wants to pour back into the industry or anybody else. mentorship's amazing, education is amazing. There is a level of responsibility that comes with it that I think we lost along the way. One of the things I talk about is I think there's a difference between helpers, teachers, educators, mentors, and coaches. I think it's a real different spectrum. And I do think at this crossroads, I'm not saying this from a place of judgment, but we have some people who are great helpers or even teachers trying to sell themselves as coaches. And I think it's so unfortunate because I think this person with so much potential who does have a lot to share has unfortunately mispositioned themselves that can do more harm than good. I don't think it's intentional, but I think that myself included, we've invested in education where we didn't get what we were promised, or we thought we were trusting somebody that unfortunately we couldn't. I don't think there's a lot of scamming. I think there's some scamming. I don't think it's a lot of scamming. I think it's mostly, it's really hard to be a great educator. And I think that we're not having enough big conversations around that.
You know, Christiane, what's so interesting about listening to David and Britt speak about titles and the nuances and differences between coaching, consultants, mentors, educators, seems like there's a lot of titles that are left up to the consumer to figure out the hell are you trying to tell me?
That's true. And I think it also can be a question of quality control. You have however many people go through your training program, and then you are then trusting that they're going to go out and do the very best with the information and the tools that you've given them to help other people. But sometimes people want to take on their own kind of way of doing things. So what is the approach to quality control? How do we ensure that these people don't feel entitled to use titles that may not be theirs to use?
Let's tune in with Sid Charisse from Destroy the Hairdresser.
So some of the criticisms that have come to DTH is about your qualifications and what qualifies you all to be salon business coaches. And something that has come up over the course of the years is, well, they haven't owned a salon. Why are they coaching people on a salon? How do you respond to that kind of critique?
Respectfully, no. I don't think that you would have had to own a salon to coach salon owners. We've helped thousands of salon owners build wildly successful businesses because we understand what it actually means to drive profitability, culture, leadership. Owning a salon is one piece of the experience. Coaching someone through their freaking breakdowns, their blockages, their hiring problems, their financial chaos, that is a whole nother skill. And to be honest, we built a 7-figure company coaching salon owners and hairstylists. And I think the results after 10 years speak for themselves. I also, when people say that, it's so disrespectful to our coaches, right? Our coaches who started as students, who started as stylists or independents and opened salons with us and now have successful salons that are hitting huge profitability markers. And now, they're coaching and have their own students. And so that one always was so silly to me because I think the proof is in the success of our program.
Yeah. Well, so much on coaching, you're putting trust into other people to help you with your business. And so I guess what qualifications does DTH possess that you find are your strengths when it comes to reliability and trust with your students?
Absolutely. I think trust is the biggest thing when it comes to having a coach, right? Because the reality is with a coach or any mentor, they're not in the stakes and the risk of your business in the sense of they're not on paper, they're not in their day in, day out with you. You're really just leaning on someone as a sounding board. You're leaning on a coach for support, for ideas, for methodologies, for guidance, no matter what program you're in, right? And so that would be the biggest thing. I think one of the things that set us apart in the industry is we are teaching people to open up the closet and dig out the dirty work and the things that they're avoiding, and we're making them face it. And we're really getting clear at helping them, reach their goals by standing up for themselves or thinking differently or changing their mindset. But in the biggest sense of a coach, and I think this is for any coach out there, a coach is to hold you accountable to what you want to achieve. So I really think that's the biggest thing. And I think if a coach can do that, they're successful, you know?
And I've always been a fan of the marketing from Destroy the Hairdresser because it's so in your face. It makes you stop. Even the name,
Right.
Destroy the Hairdresser. I mean, how do you not react to that?
Right. We have to do something that makes you go, that stops you in your tracks, because we only have, a millisecond before you scroll to the next thing. So the goal is to get you to pay attention. It's not to make you angry. It's to grab your attention. And then if it rubs you the wrong way, I would encourage you to be like, why is it rubbing me the wrong way?
I think people forget that social media is marketing, and it's also storytelling, right? And I think when you really break that down, marketing is made to get your attention, right? It's to create influence, it's to do exactly that. It's make you to stop. So saying something like, I can't think on the spot, but make more money now is probably going to get scrolled by. But when we say tipping is performative, people are going to be like, what did you say? And it's going to get their attention. And then if they actually read the caption or maybe participate, we're very big on making sure that everyone has the opportunity for our education.
So for those that they saw the marketing, they were into it, their attention was grabbed.
Yeah.
They took maybe some, listened to the podcast, took some free webinars, decided to enter.
We've had a few stalkers.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Get into the coaching program. Implemented, maybe didn't do all of it.
Yep.
Where does the personal responsibility come? Because not every client is going to have the same results using the same tools. So where does it come in with, here are our methodologies. We know if you do it XYZ, this is how it's going to work. And personal responsibility for either not doing it the way you suggested, whatever the reason is. I feel like that is the tightrope of I don't want to say who's to blame, but where does the accountability
I'll tell you
fall?
who's to blame. There's a couple things. One, you're responsible for your own shit. I mean, Weight Watchers, first 10 pounds are on us. And then you sign up and you don't lose 10 pounds. And you go, well, Weight Watchers didn't work for me. You have to ask yourself, did you do the program? Did you really do it? Or did you pay for it and then it sat there and the gym membership that you also paid for and all these things that you paid for didn't do what it was supposed to do, and so it's their fault, right? There's a level of consumer buyer beware in everything in America specifically. Like there's a caveat to we're going to give you this thing, but there's a buyer beware clause of you're taking the risk of listening to someone's advice. This isn't true just about DTH. This is true about everyone that you're listening to, which is why I say use a lot of discernment with who you're hiring, who you're listening to, even us. In the past, I would say in the past more than today, we had more people kind of say, I did DTH and it ruined my business. I did DTH and it did this. And I will say a couple things. One, those same people started DTH with the same words. I did this and it ruined my business. That's why I'm doing DTH. And we do have conversations with people saying, this is not a miracle, okay? This is not a quick fix. And I'm going to coach you and I'm going to advise you on what to do. But if you don't do what we suggest and you do a version of it, then we can't guarantee anything. That doesn't mean you can't, right? We do hourly pricing. We have some people that start our program and they go, okay, I'm going to do hourly, but I'm going to do half hours as well. Well, that's okay. That will mess things up. But if you're afraid and that's the step you want to take, you can, but that's not hourly pricing, right? Or I'm going to go gratuity free, like DTH says, and I'm going to tell everyone that it's built into the price. Well, that's illegal. And it's not built into the price. It just doesn't exist. If you're building gratuity into the price, then it's not gratuity free. It's built-in gratuity. That's a different thing. So there's a lot of nuances, like you said, that people miss, which is why you got to go into the program, because the coach, that's the difference between consulting and coaching, is that coaching is helping you understand the bigger picture, the bigger consciousness around what we're doing, as opposed to, oh, you went gratuity free? Okay, check that off the box, right? Without any clarification of what that actually means. So there's a level of personal responsibility that definitely has to come in. I'm not saying we're not responsible for the information, but we can't be responsible for its entire application.
Have you ever found in any of your methodology that like it wasn't, you had to adjust a concept, or do you feel it ultimately is in the execution of the student? Like, have you ever like kind of looked back and said, this concept's really good, we like it for XYZ, but we need to like tweak it? Or you wholeheartedly believe in the concepts, and then it's like, if it doesn't work out, it's on the execution of the student?
No, I mean, that would be the opposite of growth, right? To not look inward at everything and make adjustments, add new, take away, right? And so I definitely think that we're always looking at it. Like, is this working? We do like roundtables with our coaches, our students, for the overarching, like the umbrella of our methods, they are working. Have we had to tweak certain methods for where someone is at in their career? Absolutely. And so we've been really graceful with that in the sense of like, okay, like, the overarching method of time-based pricing is like on the hour for the hour, right? But maybe someone's not ready for that yet. And so leaning into just charging for their time is the first step. And so rather than being like, it's this or nothing, we've really leaned into like, okay, like you're just learning how to do this. The goal is to get to this, but let's start by just removing service titles. Let's start by removing gender. Let's start by removing tipping. Let's just charge for our time.
How often are you looking at your materials, your methods, and doing a reboot, doing
that's a good question.
Changes and updates?
One of the things I think I'm most proud of is that we haven't changed any of our methods from the beginning. We have had periods where the noise gets really loud from the audience of like, hourly pricing doesn't work. I mean, everything that DTH puts out there, the industry then chews on for about 6 months and wants to just spit it out. And I think what I'm really proud of is that we just keep, if you look at the methods from when we started to where we are now, it's the same. They're the same.
So David just leaned in to the fact that he is proud that their methodology in the past 10 years has not changed. And to me, that's kind of wild because our industry has changed so dramatically in the last 10 years. Technology changes on the fly. And we did talk a little bit more about why that is and systems versus methodology and having that freedom to flow and adapt and grow. But in stark contrast, what we heard from Britt, she's constantly evolving and looking at her content and how she approaches her system. So I want to share this big point of contrast here. Let's hear from Britt.
Not every student using the same tools gets the same result. So this must be so challenging to navigate this line of who takes ownership and responsibility for when proven methodologies don't work for stylist A, but they work for stylist B. Do you have to rework things? Is it on the student? Is it in the execution? Is it in the concept? Like, where can it go wrong, and who is it up to take ownership in that?
I think that's a really good question. And I do think it's a bit of a partnership on both sides. I think I can only speak to my methodology and the way I look at it and what I change. We update our methodology anywhere from every 18 months to 3 years, depending on how fast the industry is changing at any given time. I think we're on the 6th iteration of Thriving Stylist Method in the last 10 years. We're on our 2nd huge iteration of Thriving Leadership Method in the last 3.5 years. So for us, we're adapting and changing as things change. I think that's my personal responsibility. I have to. When we look at like the results somebody achieved, one of the things I'm big on is I'm not always the first out the gate teaching anything. I wait and I'll test and I'll see. And if something fails, I don't teach it. And I'm more methodical, like going back to that methodology thing. I don't teach to trends. I teach to, again, structure. And so because of that, I do have a knowing and a confidence. If you apply our system in the way that we teach it, it will work. I don't have an example of somebody doing the system we've taught and it failing. I think that is a little bit unique. And I think a lot of other people can say it. I don't think everybody can say it. I think it is the responsibility of the educator to make sure that whatever they are putting a price tag on works. One of the things I've spoken very vocally about for a long time is I taught for free and next to nothing for like 5 years, for a really long time before I started charging for anything. I think we lost that art. Everybody's quick to charge $1,000, got to put a price tag on it. And I think if we really look at the personal responsibility and slow it down and say, what if I mentored 10 people for free for 6 months and I take a look at what kind of transformation I can happen? Or listen, maybe it all blows up and none of it works. But the only skin in their game was time. The only skin in mine was the same. We tried something, it failed. I think we've lost that art.
Like, who is the DTH student? Is coaching for everyone? Like, what do you need to be prepared to and willing to do to be successful in your program?
Number one, I be curious and excited that there's something new. There's a new way to do it. If you're not excited and it freaks you out, like anything, you're not going to last very long. But my favorite type of student, who I think is also I would say the best type of student, the one that does the best, are the older students who have been in the industry for a long time and they've done every other program. Those are the people who are in our program.
Like, DTH, you're our last resort. It's either this or forget it.
I'm not kidding.
In your opinion, who is a fit for Thriver Society or in coaching in general? Like, is it for everyone?
Absolutely not. I love this question. I don't think I'm for everybody. I don't think Thriver Society is for everybody. And I love that last part, like, who's a fit for coaching? Because I do think, I think we're kind of stepping away from this, which is wonderful. But I think for a lot of years, it was like, everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a mastermind. Who's your mentor? And there was all this pressure. And then you felt like you were lacking, or there was this big fear of falling behind, which is so ironic. It's like, behind what? Who you're falling behind, whom or what? Or like, who's in front? Like, we don't even know.
Right.
But there was all this pressure and fear around, okay, this is what we're supposed to do. And if I'm not doing it, my career's over. I think for Thriver Society specifically, the way I see it is we have two methods: Thriving Stylist method, Thriving Leadership method. It's not for everybody. And I very much respect that. I think there's, like I said before, a lot of different ways to do things in the industry. I like to teach a structure that works, that increases revenue, that generates profit, that creates systems and organizes the chaos. I'm not a naturally organized person. I have to really fight for it. And so it's teaching a lot of the things that really helped me to get a grip on this overwhelming thing we call running your own business. And it's for those who really are ready to put a little more structure into place to get a really predictable result. When you say, like, who's ready for a coach, I've even gone through seasons of my life where I was like, I don't want to coach right now. I need to take a season of, maybe it's recharging my mental health. Maybe it's a time of, I can't personally develop right now. I just need to be in a season of enjoying what I've got and nurturing what I've built and stabilizing what I have. My brain is full. My heart is full. I'm good for a minute. I think that for any of us, when we get to a place, I like to call it like the craving for curiosity. I don't know that everybody's wired like this, but for me, I get this like gnawing feeling where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm ready for more. I'm just wondering what else is out there. I'm starting to hear things or see things that make me feel interested in pushing forward. I think that's a really good time to find a coach or find an education program or whatever. But I think to do it out of pressure or a feeling that if I don't, I'll be left behind is probably the wrong reason to do just about anything.
Well, final question. Looking back, and you mentioned there's been podcasts dedicated to Destroy the Hairdresser, controversies, online, internal drama, all of the things. DEI, business practices.
Yes. At one point, we were the most racist company. At one point, we were a sexist company. At one point, we were out to destroy everyone. I mean, you name it, we've survived.
Yeah. So looking back, is there anything that you would do differently, change?
Yes.
Okay. What would that be?
I would not apologize. We spent a lot of our, probably in the last, not in the last couple of years, but pre-COVID, around COVID, there was a lot of pressure around virtue signaling. You got to be pro this and anti this, and it's still happening now. We just don't play the game anymore. if I was sitting here and I was self-admitting that we did bad things, then this would be a different story. I think there was a lot of self-reflection of like, I don't think what we did was wrong. I don't think we are destroying people's lives. But at some days it hits you and you're like, let's just shut it all down. I mean, I'm sure you've had that with left. Like, there are just moments where like the noise gets so crazy that you're like, maybe I am a horrible person. And then you have to remind yourself like, no, like what I'm doing and what I'm saying is exactly true to what it is we're trying to do. So I regret apologizing for certain things, and I regret slowing down the way that we were doing things because we were afraid of the audience. And I can tell you, for anyone struggling with this now, when you get on the other side of it, there's nothing that can fucking scare you after that. And that, to me, is priceless. And I feel like we're on the other side and still teaching the same things, and that makes me really proud.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
So looking back 10 years on some of the tougher moments, some of the controversies, the drama, the feedback, is there anything you would do differently in how you might have handled the situation, or anything that you do differently to maybe change the narrative or minds of some people out there?
Well, I'm not in the business of changing minds because I think that's a lot of energy wasted. And, I think people are going to think what they want to think no matter what you say or do. Right. And so our thing is just like, we're just going to keep moving forward. Honestly, there are moments I'd maybe communicate with more clarity, more precision. But I would say something I'm really proud of is like, we have learned how to disrupt with compassion. We're disruptive, but we're very empathetic to the situations of what people are experiencing. We still stand by what we believe, but we've grown in how we say things and how we talk and who we're talking to. And it makes me sad because the internet doesn't always leave room for nuance. And we have to learn how to balance that boldness with context, right? And but I wouldn't take back the fire at all. I think it's what's built the movement. And it kind of made me sad from an industry perspective of like, I think people want the tea and the drama, and honestly, there isn't one. So I get the curiosity around like controversy or pushback, and that's fair. Again, we're all going to stop scrolling for tea or drama, but there's so many lives that we've changed, and that I'm so incredibly proud of. Like, if I was to die tomorrow, the legacy that I've been a part of. And I'm so proud of seeing the stories and the messages and the texts and the DMs that I get literally on the daily basis of just like, you saved my business, And I wish people would really harp on the good things about things like that more often. We're already so divided in the world and as an industry. And I think so many people just want to hate something. And it's okay. You can hate us. I can take it. I have pretty thick skin. But I hate it for the students that have so much success to then talk to someone and be like, I opened a business and, I'm making 20% profitability and I have a full staff. And they're like, oh, I heard about DTH. They're, blah, 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 and it makes me really sad because it's just like everyone's had a negative experience in their business at some point. You've hired the wrong people. You said the wrong things. You've done the wrong things, right? And I think people forget that there's humans behind these businesses. We're not some big corporation. We're still Sid and David and our incredible coaches and our incredible students. And that's the real story if you want it. I know it's boring, but I'm really, really proud of it.
Ooh, this was dirty hair, Christian.
Really was. There was so much to untangle in this conversation. And I still feel like, even though we did do a lot of untangling, there's still so many questions that I have.
I worked with David and Sid and Destroy the Hairdresser for 8 years. And I've always been drawn to them because they are so provocative. I love good marketing. I can't take my eyes away. Even though I might not agree with what they're saying or people have mixed opinions, it grabs your attention. And to me, that's just super exciting. I can't say no to bad marketing. I'm always looking to see what they're going to be doing, whether people love it or hate it. And in my experience working with them, there is that disconnect between the provocative marketing and the nuance of the application for when it comes to implementing some of their practices. I haven't been through their coaching program. I'm not a hairdresser. I'm not a salon owner, but I don't know. It's like something doesn't quite add up. David and Sid, they're very persuasive. It's no wonder people think Destroy the Hairdresser is a cult. If you're out there and, maybe don't have direction, I could see, wow, what they're sounding sounds pretty good. And you can be very easily persuaded.
I think that they're incredibly convicted in what they're doing. They really, truly believe in their methodology. They really believe in Destroy the Hairdresser as a brand. And I actually am very drawn to that energy. And I think that that's something, that level of confidence is very attractive. And I think that especially when people are feeling like maybe they're wavering a little bit in their career, to align themselves with people that are so convicted and believe so firmly in what they're doing, that's very alluring. In a way, it's almost like they both don't really see that there's such a thing as bad press. They're able to let that just roll off their back. And for that, I applaud them. I wish that I had that level of confidence, And at the same time, I do have questions.
Maybe it's our perception that there's supposed to be the one coaching program that's supposed to be the savior of our industry. And I think what I'm really walking away with this is some companies just aren't for you. Business practices might not work for your business. Destroy the Hairdresser works from a place of emotional intelligence. Not everyone's going to do that. Some people just want a system that's going to work for them, that they can implement and follow steps A to B to C to D to E. And you do it this way, and we can guarantee those results.
Yeah.
And
they just want answers.
They just want answers. And so for people that have problems with a coaching program, it sounds like from the coaching experts that it's really on them to be discerning, to find out if this is the right fit for them. And did they do the work? Buyers beware, do the research, be discerning, see who you're getting into business with, question things. And, if that seems like a lot for you to do, then Destroy the Hairdresser is probably not going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah.
They're disruptors. They want to question everything. They want to turn the industry upside down and seemingly come from a place that is to destroy all of the facts and ways big business has imparted its wisdom, so to speak, onto the hair industry. And Britsiva is all about making real systems that are going to help people where she can guarantee results. So you have two completely different schools of thoughts here in a very divided and mixed up industry. And so ultimately, I think because it's up to the individual to find the right coach for you, and there's so many methodologies there that it's just really going to be about personal choice and figuring out who the hell you're going to blame when you have problems.
Yeah. And to David's point, there is a difference between a coach and a consultant. And if you're a person that is willing to do the work and take accountability for the successes or failures of the work that you put into place as a result of getting coached, then coaching is for you. If you'd rather have somebody tell you what to do and give you the tools to get whatever your goals are accomplished, hire a consultant. And I think that is that was a really interesting point that he brought up. And that's actually, I'd say, one of my top takeaways is that there may just be confusion around the definition of what a coach is.
Why is coaching so contentious? It's the Wild West. There's no regulations. And there's no one right coaching program that's going to work for everybody. Everybody has opinions. Everybody has different businesses. Everyone has an idea of what's going to be the best methodology, the best system. No one wants to take personal responsibility. So it's a clusterfuck.
Like and subscribe to Dirty Hair Podcast, streaming on all platforms.
I'm Erin Dietrich. Follow Dirty Hair on Instagram at Dirty Hair Podcast, me at Queen of Indie _, and the Left Brain Group at the Left Brain Group.
And be sure to follow me, Christian Van Bremen, on Instagram at Christian, CHRISTIAAN. Yes, there's 2 A's. Van Bremen, VANBREMEN. See you in cyberspace.
Keep it dirty. Dirty Hair was created and editorially directed by Erin Dietrich. This has been a See the Tree production with producer Christian Dietrich. Editing by Dietrich Teschner and Robert Granata. Sound engineering also by Robert Granata. Music by Christian Van Bremen and Robert Granata.